The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
The estimated real gross domestic product growth rate amounted to 11.8% for April 2024 compared to previous year, and the average real GDP growth for January-April 2024 equaled 9%, according to the National Statistics Office of Georgia, Geostat. According to the document, in April 2024, compared to the same period of the previous year, the estimated real growth in following activities contributed significantly. That's manufacturing, construction, information and communication, transportation and storage, trade, professional, scientific and technical activities. Decline was registered in the energy sector. International School of Economics at TSU Policy Institute, ICET, publishes a report on Georgia's tax code known as the Offshores Law, noting that a recent amendment to Georgia's tax code has sparked significant concern regarding the integrity of Georgia's financial system. According to the document, the tax code amendment incentivizes the relocation of assets from tax havens to Georgia. An analysis of foreign direct investment dynamics from offshore jurisdictions reveals that such investments often involve high turnover and short-term financial maneuvers rather than contributing to long-term economic growth. The amendment to the tax code could potentially violate international standards such as the OECD's BEPS action and FAT recommendations by creating a favorable regime for tax avoidance and undermining due diligence efforts, ICET writes in its report. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Guangelashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up business and economics week for you. German ambassador to Georgia, Peter Fischer, said in an exclusive interview with BMG that the EU will not open the accession negotiations for Georgia as long as the controversial foreign agents law stands. BMG's general producer, Georgi Sakadze, and myself, host and the author of a talk show, Analytics and the Checkpoints, conducted the interview on May 29th, a day after the bill had been adopted by the parliament through overcoming president's veto.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much for visiting us in this quite turbulent and interesting time for Georgia and for the channel Straight to the Forward. I mean, where do we stand as a country so far on our way to EU integration? What's the status right now?
The status is that Georgia is a candidate country since last December. That was a great historic step for both sides, Georgia and the European Union. And the next step would be to open accession negotiations, to get a decision by the European Union that we are ready to open accession negotiations. However, the Georgian government has passed a law which is incompatible with European standards, and as long as this law stands, we will not open accession negotiations with Georgia. That's where Georgia stands.
Mr. Ambassador, when we planned this interview, there was still a small hope that this law would not have been passed. But GD decided otherwise. So what does this law change for Georgia?
Well, that is really a question more for Georgians. We think, and our thoughts were documented by the Venice Commission, which is the advisory group of the Council of Europe, of which Georgia is a member. Council of Europe is a standard setter in, let's say, democratic principles for the member states, including Georgia, including Germany, and all the EU member states are members of the European Council. So the Venice Commission wrote in its 24-page detailed opinion that it offered to Georgia as
legal opinion. It is
legal opinion.
It's definitely legal opinion.
Written by lawyers, for lawyers, read here by lawyers. And it said that this law is a gross interference with fundamental rights of Georgian citizens, rights that Georgian citizens have according to their own constitution, according to the European Convention on Human Rights, according to the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. Both of the two conventions I mentioned, Georgia has ratified, so Georgia is party to. And any lawyer, in fact, any citizen, anyone can understand a grossly disproportionate interference in fundamental rights is just something you shouldn't do. There are other ways to deal with the issue of transparency of foreign influence without grossly interfering in fundamental rights of the citizens.
However, the EU officials till this day, even after the passing of the law, they say that there is still room where the country could reverse its political course. How do you see that? What type of political will would it take to reverse this course?
Well, there's always room and the possibility to change course. Politics is a dynamic process, and so I can't speak for the Georgian government. The government has once before told us last year that the draft law was a mistake and that therefore it has been withdrawn. This time we told the government we still think it's a mistake. It wasn't withdrawn, it was decided on. But let's see what the future brings. I mean, let's be hopeful. On the agenda is Georgia's membership in the European Union. That's a wonderful, great prospect, in my opinion. It's up for the Georgians to decide whether they also think that's a wonderful, great prospect. And if they do, then we will somehow have to get over this law, because with this law, Georgia won't join.
Do you still have questions with the Georgian people? Because we remember when the candidate status was granted for Georgia, the EU specifically and the EU's high officials specifically pointed out that it was because of Georgian people, because of their activities in the streets and because of their urge to be part of the European Union.
We think the Georgian population, in its overwhelming majority, is in favor of joining the European Union. That's what all polls show. That's what my personal experience showed. I've never met a Georgian who said, I don't think the European Union is for me. On the contrary, every day I meet people that say, we love the European Union and we would love to join.
You said, let's see what the future brings. Do you think future brings sanctions?
Sanctions are, is a broad term. It means a negative reaction. So, speaking on behalf of a member state of the European Union, our first reaction is to say very clearly that with this law, you can't be a member of the European Union. With this law, we will not open accession negotiations with the European Union. It's very simple. If you want to join the European Union, you have to meet our standard in legislation, norms and values. A state that joins the European Union takes over European law, European legislation. That's what it means to be a member of the European Union. It means to accept European legislation. This law is not in line with European legislation. So that's our first message. Then we have to say there were actions by the Georgian government, for example, this law, plus it's accompanied by a very severe criticism of the EU and of the United States of America. So if you want to join a union, but at the same time you criticize it, as being somehow dangerous. Global war party. It's not my term. I don't like the term. I don't think it exists. Then we have to ask ourselves, can we do business as usual? Are we now partners, or are we no longer partners? That's up for the Georgian government to decide. I don't want to speak on behalf of other governments, but you've seen other governments' announcements.
We did.
Yes.
We did. Ambassador Fischer, sir, can we let me qualify in the following way? What might be the price Georgian people could pay for the suspension, let me be more optimistic in this regards, for not opening for the next step within the EU integration? I'm talking about official negotiations for the further. We're just losing time, or it's another opportunity what we will miss during this fantastic period?
Well, let me put it this way.
Please.
For over 30 years, Georgia has been on its own path, self-defined, of Euro-Atlantic integration. I think that's agreed, right? And
confirmed by our constitution.
Confirmed by your constitution, confirmed by successive governments. And there's been good progress on that path. There's been good economic progress. You know, I would like to see things more positively. So much progress, so much good economic development, good development of society, no? In Georgia. Fantastic opportunity to join the European Union, one of the biggest, freest markets in the world, a space of democracy, liberty, a space of safety, security, a giant opportunity. And I still want to believe that if the Georgian people want that, we can make progress. For some reason, which I'm not able to fully explain, this law was decided, a rhetoric was chosen which is anti-European, a climate of fear is being spread, enemies are being identified everywhere, including us, Germany, France, Spain. Are we some kind of dangerous enemies now? I would say no. We're not the global war party, we're the global peace party. I could elaborate, but the European Union is a fantastic project of peace invented after bloody nationalistic wars, after genocide committed by Germany. So we're the global peace party. And all of a sudden, this strange atmosphere of fear, of enemies, of misinformation is coming up. I would like to focus on the strength of Georgia, good macroeconomics numbers, your strong civil society. I'm a diplomat. I'm not here to take any position in domestic affairs. But it's a fact that your civil society is strong and vital. And every day for 4 weeks, we're seeing thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people coming to the streets and saying, I am a citizen of this country, and I'm articulating my wish as a citizen to be part of the EU. It's quite heartwarming to see people carrying the European flag and say, this is a good project, this is what I want. So, to answer your question, yes, I'm optimistic that things can continue, but the accession process to the EU has nothing to do with family or how we feel or what our internal sentiment is. It's a legal process. You're not joining a family, you're joining an organization which has a contract, which has rules, and which has written rules for joining. And the main rule is you have to fulfill our standard. And we will be your partner. We will reach out our hand as we have for 30 years and say, if you want to join, here's our hand. We will help you join. We also give you a lot of support to join. And once you open accession negotiations, there's even more support. So it's called pre-accession support, let's call it. But you have to fulfill the standard. And if you tell us we are not willing to fulfill the standard, well, then that process comes to a halt. And there's always the opportunity then again to change your opinion, to say, yes, we are ready now to fulfill the standard. The example is Turkey.
Yeah.
With Turkey, everything has ground to a halt because Turkey has said on many issues, well, that's not the way we want to be. And we said, okay, then we will part as friends, but in this way you can't join the European Union.
Mr. Ambassador, does changing political course also mean changes in economic relations? For example, to talk about Germany specifically, would Germany like to have business relations with the country that has explicitly said that it doesn't want to
I would
join EU?
look at two things. So one are business relations. Businesses have business relations. Germany doesn't have business relations. We have official relations and we give development aid. So let's talk first of all about the business. European Union is, with the USA and China, are the three big markets in the world. EU is perhaps, if you like, the best market if you believe in good social policy and good environmental policy.
And we believe in figures, sir.
And believe in figures.
Statistics, everything.
And have you looked at the stock price of the two big Georgian banks that are listed in London?
Yeah.
Markets tell us
That's
some truth.
Story, yeah.
Have you looked at the course of the lari recently? Tendency down for an importing country means the prices will go up for the citizens, for import goods. Have you looked at, now I have to look at my notes, the spread of the Georgian Eurobond versus US Treasuries?
We did.
Has gone up, which means credit is becoming more expensive. Markets are already reacting. And Europeans, the EU companies do trade and invest mainly amongst themselves. So I would contend the best thing that can happen to the Georgian economy is to join this market. It's a single market. There are no more barriers. Freedom of movement of personnel, goods, services, capital. You're part of a great market. It's a big economic opportunity. And in business sense, it's not a good idea to miss it. And as far as I know, most business associations here have also said that they would, or that they think it's unfortunate that there might be a delay or perhaps missing it. And then I'll add one more thing. The window for enlargement opened for Georgia when Russia attacked Ukraine. There are big debates in Europe, enlargement versus deepening. Deepening means having more decisions by majority vote rather than unanimity. Deepening means having one currency. Deepening means bringing other areas into a fully European competence.
More harmonization.
More harmonization. So some are for, some are against, and there's always been a debate, do we need enlargement or do we need deepening? Now we're saying we need both. And the best thing for us is that if our common space of security, democracy, and good economic development includes all those who, reasonably can say they're Europeans, and Georgians can say that, and who want. You have to want. And Georgia has wanted and said it wants. So that window is open. But that window can close too. It can be that governments come into power in European member states this year, next year, the next 5 years, who are less favorable to enlargement. It's not like a guarantee that's always there. Right now, of course, we say politically, Georgia has applied, we've made the offer, candidate status. It's practically open-ended, but political circumstances can change. It's important not to miss your historic opportunity. In French, we say a rendezvous. Sometimes you can miss a meeting point.
Going back to Elena's questions, Mr. Ambassador, so politics and business, it's splittable. So I mean, we can divide some political issues and business issues. It means that Georgia is going to be in favor of EU and EU member countries in attracting investments, supporting local economic and business community. It will still go on after this law and changing the rules, or I don't know.
Well, it depends on business decisions, but I would contend that the clearer it is that Georgia is joining the European Union, the more business opportunities and investment you will have, especially from Europe. For European businesses, the safest investment is in the European Union. And I've witnessed it in many countries. There are many alternatives where to invest your money. And if it's in the EU, then people will say, that's pretty good for me. That's safe. It's a big market. It will grow. If Georgia is not in the EU, what will you be? A small market to begin with. German companies invest into big markets where there's lots of customers. Car factories don't go where there's 3.6 million customers. They go where there's 20 million, 50 million, right? And same for other industries. So giving up anything that harms the EU perspective, that makes it seem less certain or take longer time, my opinion is it's not good for business. Perhaps you will attract other business from other countries, but you will be a small market sort of in a rough, big, turbulent sea.
Mr. Fischer, please elaborate a little bit about the development aid that you also mentioned. We also try to give this perspective to the people,
Yes.
To see that this accession process, this harmonization process, or the deepening process that you have already mentioned, might be tough for the country, for the
Yes.
businesses.
Yes.
But this is not just telling people, telling the country, telling the business, go in the deep sea and swim and let's see
Yes.
whether you will survive or not. So what are some of the tools of the development aid that EU and Germany also, because we know some of the funds that are working with local NGOs here,
Yes.
with the small and medium businesses here. So let us sum up this developmental perspective as well for our viewers.
Yes, so Germany gives development aid or economic cooperation, and so does the EU. 25% of everything that comes from the EU comes from Germany, as you know. And over the past 30 years, Germany has invested about 2 million euros here in German taxpayers' money. I always like to remind people that comes from our German nurses and bus drivers and street cleaners and so on. It comes from the average German citizen with compliments, and you're very welcome. And we have an active portfolio of about 1 billion euros.
Which means active portfolio?
Which means projects that are
ongoing.
You know, they're 4 or 5 year projects, and they're ongoing. We're, along with the US and Germany are the two biggest donors to Georgia, and of nation states, and the EU is the biggest. And a lot of that, so first of all, it's always based on partnership. If we're not partners anymore, well, we have to rethink. And a lot of it is based on preparing Georgia for European Union membership. If that is the basis of this business and that basis somehow is damaged, well, we have to rethink our projects too. Right now, we're in reflection mode. We want to see how this continues, but we have to send a very clear signal that if it continues that Georgia openly defies its own membership perspective, which it has through this law, and if it blames us for somehow being not a partner, then of course we have to rethink this partnership. Yeah, that's where it stands.
For many things, so unfortunately, this Russian law, as people in the streets are chanting, has become a watershed in EU-Georgia relations. What could be the next watershed? And do you think that could be 2024 elections? And should we think about having this perspective open for Georgia for that period? Because you mentioned very rightfully so that this window won't stay open for always.
We don't know whether this window will always be open. So elections are of course important for any country. We believe in democracy. The Georgian constitution prescribes a democracy. Free and fair elections are an essential requirement also for joining the EU. If there's any doubt about the election here, it will be another point where we have to say, well, that's not the standard that we expect, and it means no progress. So I just want to re-emphasize as a diplomat, I have no stake in who governs Georgia, right? And but that the elections are of key importance at this time when the population seems to be saying we're in front of a fundamental decision, which way our country should go. That's clear. And from an EU perspective, it's one of the 9 points: free and fair and competitive election without interference, so the citizens of Georgia can really express their political will freely. And I don't think it's interfering in elections when I appeal to all citizens, this is your right, and in a way it's your democratic duty to inform yourself and make a decision and go vote. That's what we tell our own citizens. And as a citizen from a friendly country, that's my message to friends in Georgia. Make use of this vote. The future is in your own hands.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. I'm trying to find what other tools we have as Georgian citizens other than standing in the streets in this situation to change the situation when the law has not been reversed.
But not here maybe, but I have some kind request to a good friend of Georgia, Ambassador Fisher, that if he will find any kind of sign of what or who is the global war party, he could share it with us, not as a diplomat, but as a friend, because we're trying to dig as much as we can. No sign.
I'm from the Global Peace Party, European Union. We're so busy making peace, trying to prevent war, trying to bring back peace where unfortunately war was brought by others, that we don't have time to look for the global war party, in particular because we think it's a phantom. In American English, you say it's a wild goose chase. You can look and look and look and you'll never find.
One final question from myself, and that's how we finish. Is there still time and space to have on these 9 preconditions? Or it's impossible to make this progress in this current situation?
With the law?
With the law, with the acting government.
The law is a violation of the 9 points to begin with. Yesterday the law was passed. We're sitting here a day after. There are other elements in the 9 points, but we have to say that the progress is almost zero. You know, the European Council, you can read this in the decision of the European Council. Everything is written. Nothing is a mystery. Said candidate status is given on the understanding that these 9 points will be fulfilled. That means the candidate status is, in this formulation, in some way connected to the fulfillment of the 9 points. That's what the European Council wrote down. And we see hardly any progress on any of the 9 points. In fact, we see a clear step away from the 9 points with the legislation. And we have to say there are 10 candidate countries now. And Georgia used to be a front runner, and now Georgia is at the end. It's the last car on the train. And time is short. It's the end of May.
From this standpoint, would you say it was a mistake to grant Georgia a candidate country status? And is it some kind of a trap now that
You're talking about some
you
sort of
have
disappointment, or?
Yes, and from the EU side also to act because whatever decision it takes, it hurts the people as well, right?
No, it was not a mistake. I mean, we studied this whole thing very carefully. As I said, we want to reach out. We are in favor of enlargement. We don't want gray areas in Europe where outside powers who are against democracy, against peace, against a happy, balanced development of society, of the economy, with good social rules, good environmental rules, where they can interfere and play their games. And we know that that happens. That's why the European Union granted the candidate status. It was not a mistake. It's a good idea to spread this area of peace, democracy, and good development to Georgia. But the Georgian government has to want it too. I don't think we're in a trap. We're very interested in Georgia joining the EU. But look at the EU and look at Georgia. Who is it more important for? Well, that's for Georgian citizens to make up their mind.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for your time and for visiting us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze responded to BMJ's exclusive interview and the ambassador himself. He criticized the statement by Peter Fisher. In his response, Kobakhidze said he cannot attach much importance to the ambassador's statement, alleging the diplomat was involved in the election campaign of the domestic opposition Lelo party ahead of the parliamentary elections in October. On the backdrop of such frivolous actions, I cannot attach much importance to this person's statement, the PM said, adding Germany, which he said had traditionally been distinguished as a responsible state, should not send such ambassadors to a country like Georgia. He added an ambassador who makes anti-Georgian statements will not be valuable to us, and said he hoped the statement was a reflection of a personal position of the ambassador who supports Lelo. Later, Michael Roth, a chair of Bundestag Foreign Affairs Committee, responded to the BMJ's exclusive interview, the ambassador of Germany himself and Prime Minister Kobakhidze's criticism on X, stating, "I fully support Ambassador Peter Fisher. He just told the facts." Meanwhile, Western criticism of the Russian law continues.
The issue of Georgia will be discussed at the next session of European Council. The President of European Council, Charles Michel, wrote about this on the social media. According to Charles Michel, the adoption of the law is a step backwards and moves Georgia further away from the EU path. In December, the European Council decided to grant Georgia candidate status with the understanding that Georgia would take appropriate steps and implement the necessary reforms. The adoption of the transparency law in the parliament is a step backwards and moves Georgia further away from the EU path. The Georgian people have clearly chosen their future in European Union, and we will do everything to support their ambitions. Because of this, I will add the issue of Georgia to the agenda of the next session of the European Council, wrote the President of European Council, Charles Michel. It's unfortunate that Georgia's leaders are choosing to forego the steps needed to advance Georgia in the western direction that its people want, the spokesperson for the Department of State, Matthew Miller, said at the briefing. Matthew Miller started the briefing with a statement related to Georgia. The Georgian parliament voted to override the Georgian president's veto of anti-democratic foreign influence bill that fails to conform to European norms, effectively turning the bill into law. The United States condemns this action. In passing this law, the ruling Georgian Dream Party moved the country further away from the European integration path and ignored the Europe-Atlantic aspirations of Georgian people who have taken to the streets for weeks to oppose this law. Georgian Dream has disregarded the Council of Europe's Venice Commission legal assessment and that of Georgia's closest partners, who made clear their concerns that the law would stigmatize civil society and media and limit fundamental freedoms. The ruling party's actions and anti-Western rhetoric threatens Georgia's democratic trajectory, further economic security, EU membership, and also put the US-Georgia relationship at risk, Matthew Miller said. We will consider our options and call on Georgian government to return to its aspirations towards the European Union. The President of European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, writes about this on the social network and responds to the veto of President on the bill on transparency of foreign influence and its adoption. According to her, the law has a negative impact on Georgia's path to European Union. The vast majority of Georgian people want to join to the European Union, but the law on the transparency of foreign influence contradicts the main principles and values of European Union, has a negative impact on Georgia's path to European Union. We will consider all options and call on the Georgian government to return to its aspirations towards the European Union, wrote European Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen. Georgian Dream had a million chances not to betray Georgia, but they still chose to obey Putin, said Viola von Kramon, the member of European Parliament, echoed the Parliament's vote for overriding the veto on transparency of foreign influence law. Georgian Dream had a million chances not to betray Georgia, but they still chose to obey Putin. History is never kind to traitors. Despite this setback, the story ends well for the people of Georgia. Sooner or later, they will join the EU, and no Russia or their proxies can change that, she wrote on the X platform.
Zurab Eristavi, managing partner of Rentals and Eristavi Estates, responds to the ongoing developments in the country on his personal Facebook page, noting that 2 big European deals have failed due to the derailment from the EU path. He notes that one of those projects should create 300 jobs. I wake up every morning with a heavy heart. I can't believe this is happening to me. How has it happened that my country has changed its course so radically in a month, declaring all our partners as enemies, Eristavi wrote on his Facebook page. Maybe this is not very important for someone, but I will still say that in the last month, 2 big European deals have failed, with the comment that you are not going to Europe anymore. One of the projects would create an additional 300 jobs, Eristavi added. What else was new in business this week? Natia Taktakishvili will sum up this week's news and outlook for you.
Tamas Chedlidze, the founder of the Bioli Wellness Resort, says that in light of current situation in the country, the facility has fewer reservations this year. As Tamas Chedlidze said in an interview with BMWG, foreigners are cautious. It should be noted that the resort located outside the city in Kajori is mainly aimed at foreign visitors. Unfortunately, we have fewer bookings at this year. We are more cautious and hesitate whether to come or not. This is the problem. 90% of our visitors are foreigners. In general, we have fewer local bookings. Wellness is not popular among Georgian customers. Last May was much better compared to this one, says Tamas Chedlidze, regarding the issue of how the current instability in the country affected the plans of Bioli. Tamas Chedlidze says that their plans have not changed, although there is a delay regarding the residential real estate, which are being offered commercially. According to the founder of Bioli, the project attracted a lot of interest at the exhibition in Dubai, although now everyone is on standby mode. In February, I was at an exhibition in Dubai. There was a lot of interest, and now it has stopped a bit. Everyone is waiting. We are on pause, says Thomas Chedlidze. Valery Checheria, the executive director of hotel management company Rooms Hotel, declares that the business suffered a loss of $500,000 due to the ongoing events in the country. As bookings and conferences are cancelled, the head of the hotel management company says that local and international organizations are waiting for the situation in the country to stabilize. For this reason, reservations are cancelled at the hotels. Both bookings and conferences are cancelled. The loss received by cancellation of reservations has increased to over $500,000. There were planned some big events with the largest budget, which were postponed by September. The organizations are waiting for the situation to stabilize, Checheria said. Rooms Hotel unites hotels in Tbilisi, Kazbeki, Bakuriani and Batumi. Guram Sukhashvili, the founder of Georgian natural products manufacturing company Jolly, says that this year the company is expanding its exporting markets. According to Sukhashvili, the company already makes exports to USA, while this year Jolly products will be represented in Gulf countries as well. Moreover, the company actively cooperates with Tisqueli Group, a local leading restaurant chain. Our products are sold in the USA. Last year, at the end of December, we joined Tisqueli Group in Georgia. At this time, the demand has increased 4 times. This year, we plan to expand as we have orders from the Gulf countries. In the first stage, over 15,000 bottles of compote will be sent to the Gulf countries, and it planned to send a total of 150,000 bottles in the next 2 years, said Sukhashvili. According to the founder of the company, Jolly obtained grants from the agency Enterprise Georgia and USAID, which enabled them to expand the enterprise located in the village of Igoeti, re-equipped it and increased its capacities. A total of $300,000 was invested in this project. At this stage, 8 people are employed in the company, although it's planned to increase the number of employees up to 15 for the next season. Jolly produces products, compotes and other products from natural raw materials. A new boutique cafe, Fuspusi, was added to the Georgian market in March. The founder of Fuspusi, Natia Urshubadze, told Women's Narrative that she turned her hobby into a business. We currently offer 7 types of desserts to the customers in our cafe, as well as 5 types of sandwiches and donuts. Donuts have become niche products of Fuspusi, said Natia Urshubadze, adding that the demand exceeded their expectations. After 2 months of the cafe's existence, the demand for customers has exceeded expectations. We always have a menu of sandwiches, and the menu of desserts is constantly changed depending on the day. We can host 12 people at the same time in Fuspusi, Natia Urshubadze noted. As for the prices, the price of sandwiches in Fuspusi starts from $9 and goes up to $21. The initial investment for the opening of the boutique cafe Fuspusi was $35,000. Currently, 2 people are employed in the cafe. In the near future, it's planned to employ 1 more person. Fuspusi is located in Simon Kandelaki Street in Tbilisi.
Tourism is the cornerstone of the Georgian economy, which is growing with the help of local and international players. There are several large players in the Georgian market, and French Accor is one of them. Accor is a large hospitality group offering experiences across more than 110 countries in 5,500 properties and 10,000 food and beverage venues, wellness facilities, and flexible workplaces. Accor appeared on the Georgian market in Georgia in 2015, and as of today, the group operates 9 hotels in the country, including premium hotels such as Pullman and Swissôtel. BMG's Business Evening host Georgi Aronia talked to Alexis Delarov, Chief Operating Officer of Accor New East Europe. Let's watch the interview to understand what Accor is planning in Georgia in the years to come.
Alexis, hi. Thank you very much for your time and opportunity to discuss global and local tourism trends.
Thank you very much, Georgi. I'm very pleased to be here. Tbilisi is a beautiful city, so this conversation will be great, I'm sure.
It is indeed, and I'd like to start our conversation by discussing Accor's business in Georgia. You brought several very interesting, very big influential brands to our country. So first of all, I'd like to ask you, what was the motivation behind that, and if we could also discuss your recent openings in the Georgian market.
Listen, in terms of the openings, we just opened this Swiss hotel, which is probably one of the best in the world. We opened the Pullman not a long time ago. I think it was 2 years ago. We started operating in Georgia in 2015. So it's been 9 years, and today we operate 9 hotels in Tbilisi, all of them in Tbilisi. Why do we operate in Georgia? Listen, I think it's a very easy question. Georgia is a very ancient country, very rich history, very rich cultural heritage, very rich food and beverage specialties. So this is everything that is today needed and requested by international travelers and tourists. And there was no way we would forget about Georgia. So very, very easy question. It's on one of our most important place for development in this part of the world.
It's very nice to hear, and 9 hotels in 9 years is a phenomenal achievement, so congratulations on that. What should we expect for 2024, 2025? What's in the pipeline? Are there any new brands coming to Georgia?
We have new hotels coming to Georgia and probably new brands. I mean, Accor today has more than 40 brands. So you can expect more hotels and more brands coming in. We have for the coming months and coming years, I think more than 15 projects, around 3,000 rooms.
Wow.
to be opened by the next following years. If talking about 24, 25, probably we have Ibis Ortachala coming in. We have Ibis Styles Old Town in Chardin area to be open. It will be the second Ibis Styles that we're opening, and we have many more hotels to open. We also looking at new areas. I mean, we've been developing mostly in Tbilisi today, but there are places where we want to develop, and we will be developing. We're opening our first hotel in Batumi very soon, probably this year, hopefully by June and by the next several weeks. We will be opening also an Ibis at the airport here in Tbilisi. So I mean, plenty of new openings. New brands will probably come in 2025. It will be in Tbilisi. In Batumi, I'm sorry. Handwritten brand is a new brand, very much very much geared at beautiful design, 4 to 5 star hotels. A lot of them are conversion hotels, but in this case it will be a new build because the infrastructure is being built in Georgia, which is good because this will last for the next 50 years easily. So plenty of new openings, plenty of new projects. Mövenpick coming to Kobuleti, I think probably in 2025 as well. You name it. We're waiting for more.
The goals are phenomenal, 15 projects, it's just incredible and very nice to hear. All the brands you mentioned are global brands, but I'd like to ask you if you incorporate some details, some specificities of the Georgian culture, of Georgian heritage within your hotels here in Georgia.
Listen, there are probably brands that are more prone for that than the others. If we talk about Mercure, Mercure is our local brand. It's a global brand because there's more than 700 hotels worldwide, but it's very much geared at the local design. We always incorporate in Mercure touches of local design, and we always incorporate in Mercure's something with relation to specialty food and beverage specialties of the region where we operate. So if this is Georgia, of course we incorporate wine specialties. But if this is let's say Armenia, we will incorporate our cognac. We'll incorporate also their food specialties, dolmas, things like that. So this is for Mercure. There are brands that are international, more international, like Novotels, for example, that we, by the way, we just opened in Avlabari. But the more we're opening, the more we operate, and the more we see how the world is changing, we incorporate more and more, especially food and beverage specialties, in each hotel that we open and we operate now.
The tourism industry here in Georgia has been booming in recent years, which is also seen in numbers as well. Last year, 4.1 billion USD was the income of the tourism industry, and more than 7 million people, which is a drastic increase year over year. Do you think that this trend will continue in the future? And if yes, what will be the main motivators or in general of the development of the Georgian tourism industry in the next, let's say, 5 years, for example?
Why did we arrive and start operating in Georgia? Georgia has an enormous potential for tourism. You have the mountains, you have the sea, you have your very old history and culture. You have one of the strongest probably in Europe, food and beverage culture. I mean, these are all trends that are today with the new travelers. This is what they're expecting. They want to discover something. It's not just we coming, we consume and we go and we throw everything. No, this time are going out. Today people are really willing to discover, to get acquainted with the culture, and this is why this trend, this is a very heavy trend in the tourism industry, and this is why Georgia is doing so well, because you have it all here. So we're very confident that this trend will continue. There are challenges, of course, because this requires a very strong, very powerful infrastructure. I'm coming for many years, so I've seen that the airport is changing. Every 2 or 3 years, it's increasing by size. But roads, traffic jams is a little bit of a challenge. Communication between different cities in Georgia is also a little bit a challenge. But overall, and all the infrastructure that goes behind, I mean the sewage, the water, electricity, etc. But I see it's coming. I mean, when we opened 9 years ago, it was a different Georgia than today. So things are evolving into the right direction, and you cannot expect from a country, from a city, from wherever you are, that something is happening overnight. It takes time to build the infrastructure, but once it's built forever, and it will just allow this snowball to roll and to roll faster. The only thing that I would say is that Georgia need to be careful in managing these tourist flows to ensure that it not becomes a mass tourism. Mass tourism sometimes is called killing the local specifics. So this is the fine line that the city and the country must not cross, just to keep its specifics.
So what you just said is very interesting. It's a very original thought. So let me ask you that: what niche do you see Georgia occupying within the global tourism ecosystem? So that which direction should it develop? If on one side we have mass tourism, which you would not recommend, so what's on the other side?
Georgia does not have mass tourism today, and it must make sure that it's not doing that, because otherwise it will destroy the cultural heritage, very strong cultural heritage, very strong history, very strong Georgian personality, the food and beverage, the countryside at the end of the day. This is so beautiful, this is why the people are coming. So let's make sure that we keep this in place, beautiful, and that people, when they arrive here, they feel that they are not in any other place but with a different climate.
Yeah,
this is what needs to be kept. heritage.
To preserve the uniqueness of the country.
Absolutely, this is what makes the country so interesting.
Alexis, so long-term outlook is very nice, and this is demonstrated by your group as well, your committed investments here in Georgia. But quite recently there have been a few socio-political and economic shocks, short-term, here in Georgia that have been connected to the law passed by the parliament. So we talk a lot to representatives of the tourism industry, both international players and local players, and a lot of them say that because of the law and because of the protests that are happening because of the initiation of this law, a lot of bookings have been cancelled, and guests, tourists, they are asking questions whether Georgia is safe to travel, whether they should come or whether they should postpone their visit. Have you seen this declining trend within your group? And in general, do you think that such short-term fluctuations could cause harm to the Georgian tourism industry?
Listen, first of all our hotels are continuing operating. So this is the first thing. The second thing is, once again, I mean, we're operating in this country since 2015. You know better than me that there's been fluctuation already in this country since 2015. So long term, there's absolutely no problem. It will not impact tourism or the image of Georgia at all, in my opinion. There might be short impact. Some hotels doing less good than the others. One, of course, when you're in Rustaveli, you probably are impacted more than if your hotel is next to the stadium or our Mercure there. So no major impact for us. Small impacts for some hotels, but in the long term, absolutely no risk of impacting the trend that we discussed just a few minutes ago.
All right, let's discuss other challenges and other trends that exist in Georgia and globally as well. Last few years were just to say it simply quite crazy, because we had pandemic first, which during which basically the travel was suspended, hotels did not work so well, people changed their attitude towards tourism. After that, we've seen an uprising in everything, in flights, in bookings, tourism. But then again, pandemic changed mindset of people. Now we're experiencing another boom, which is connected to artificial intelligence, and this could be seen basically everywhere. AI entered our daily lives, and this could be seen in market cap of the biggest tech companies, which have been surging beyond crazy limits. What are some of the challenges that you see today on the global scale within the hospitality industry?
Well, this is a very complicated question. I'm not sure of the challenges, but let's speak of what Accor is thinking of that. We believe artificial intelligence can help us interact in a better way with our customers in terms of offering them hotels that will fit their expectation or their patterns of travel. This will help us interact with our customers in terms of relationship management, in terms of how we listen to them and how we can implement their idea or their comments into our day-to-day operations, into our design of the hotel, into the expectation of the guests can be translated into some of our operational policies. For example, when we talk about food waste, for example, when we talk about CSR initiatives, when we're talking about how we manage our air conditioning systems in the rooms. There are plenty of things that can be used by us when it comes to collecting information and feedback from our guests. And artificial intelligence probably can help us doing this.
How did the feedback of customers, their demands, their requirements change over the last couple of years?
I mean, if we go much back in the years, when I started in the hotel industry, there were no safe in the rooms. Today, it's not even a question. But then came Wi-Fi, then came color TV. I mean, there are plenty of things that are changing every day. But today there are trends that are very strong with relation to our customer is their expectation in terms of corporate social responsibility. And this is, from what we know, there's over 70% of our guest customers that are concerned by this question. So it's a major trend. It's a very heavy direction that we need to tackle, and we're tackling. I mean, for example, we're very much trying to convert hotels into hotels of our brand. Why? Because there's no need to build a new hotel. There's no need to take land from the city or from anywhere. Infrastructure is already existing, so there's less impact when you're transforming a hotel from one brand to another rather than building it from scratch. And this is why we have some of our brands that are geared to that. Handwritten, theoretically, is a conversion brand. Mercure is very much a conversion brand. We have even created a brand that is called Grit, that is built on conversion and using second-hand material to fit into the hotel. There are also things that we are doing in terms of eliminating 50 different elements of plastic in our hotels. Plastic bottles, plastic shower bottles, things like that. We have eliminated 50 individual items of plastic from all our hotels. We're getting certification. All our Mövenpick hotels are 100% certified. So there are plenty of things that are being done in order to address the expectation of our guests. These are only examples, but I can spend hours in talking about that.
What does the future look like for the global and here local Georgian tourism industry, and how do you think Accor could incorporate new emerging technologies to increase effectiveness of management and ultimately increase the revenue and profitability of the group as well?
I mean, we discuss artificial intelligence in terms of how we interact with the customers. Artificial intelligence could help us better manage our rates and our inventory into the hotel, making them more efficient. But the future of tourism is a bright future in the world. I mean, up to before the COVID, the tourism industry was growing 10% per year. It's one of the best and highest growth in the industry, in all the industries around the world. People are getting, I wouldn't say richer and richer, but the middle class in the world is growing. It's growing in China, it's growing in Africa, it's growing in India. So all these people that are becoming self-sufficient, they went out of poverty. One of the first things they're trying to do, they're trying to discover the world. So there is a huge potential to grow this industry. I think Georgia can very much gain from that, and I can see this once again by these 9 last years. The average customers in Georgia has changed a lot. Georgia is also attracting people that were not on the market 10 years ago. I'm talking about the Middle East, but I also see more and more people coming from India. So this is a blessed industry. This is what is saying our CEO, but he's completely right, because the demand is growing. But the demand is growing and at the same time is changing. The expectation, for example, from the customers, we discussed this again a few minutes ago with relation to our CSR policies and expectation in terms of food waste. This is also a very important thing that our customers are expecting, that the food that is served is not wasted, because this is a cost, but this has also an impact on the global globe, because you need to grow more food in order to sustain this.
Alexis, good luck to you and your team, and thank you very much for the interview. We for sure will be talking soon once again, because opening 15 hotels, and we as Business Media Georgia, we're always there to cover investments, new, especially investments coming from the western part of the world, because we are very much interested in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Georgi. More than happy to meet with you upon our next 15 openings.
And that's all for today. We will meet next Sunday, 11 a.m. sharp. Before that, you know what to do. Read us on bm.g and watch us on BMG TV.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.